In today's video, we are going to review the process of creating and customizing Azure Log Analytic workbooks so you can use those to monitor your WBD environment and present the information that makes the most sense for your environment. So the starting place would be in the Nerdio Manager for WBD on the settings screen. We want to make sure that the Sepago Azure Monitor configuration is enabled. As we've seen in previous videos, we used the Nerdio Manager to deploy the Log Analytics Workspace that's properly going to create all of the starting workbooks for us and assign all the right permissions to the Log Analytics Workspace. If we switch over to the Azure portal, and we're going to open up the Log Analytics Workspace that was created for us by the Nerdio Manager. And then if we go under the Workbook section here in the General section here, we'll see a number of different workbooks. The one we're going to focus on today is called WBD Insights. WBD Insights is a template. And from this template, you can see I've already created a number of custom workbooks, but we are going to go through the process from the beginning. So we're going to click on WBD Insights, which is going to open up a default configured Sepago workbook that can read the information that's being submitted to the Log Analytics Workspace and summarize it for us in multiple different ways. So first thing you'll notice here is that there is a selector for the time range and the host pool name. And that's something that we can customize and pre-configure for a particular host pool. So before making changes, let's go ahead and click the Save button. And the Save button is going to give us the option to create a workbook with a specific title. So let's call it, my first host pool dashboard. And we select where to save it to and click Save. Once this is saved, then any changes we'll be making are going to be made to the My First Host Pool Dashboard workbook that we just created. So the first thing we want to do is select our time range. And the time range really depends on what it is that you want to look at. So let's say we want to look at the performance over the last 24 hours or the information over the last 24 hours, because we're really more interested in sort of real-time information rather than historical information. So let's go ahead and select last 24 hours. And then we're also going to select a host pool that we want to monitor. So let's go ahead and select this pool A that we want to look at. If we scroll down, we can see that the data has already been pre-populated and we're seeing all sorts of information on our sessions tab right here. So before we save this again, let's go ahead and make some changes to the wording here. So let's click on Edit, and we're going to edit the very top section here. Instead of it saying Windows Virtual Desktop Overview Workbook, let's give it a more descriptive name. So we're going to overwrite this with My First Host Pool Dashboard and click Done Editing. And you'll see that that now came up in the screen. Then we're going to make a few other customizations. For example, we'll go into our bandwidth and latency section, and we currently have a configuration that says that an infringement is a situation where the output bandwidth exceeds 8 megabits per second for 3 minutes. And let's say we wanted to change that. Let's say instead of 8 megabits, we wanted it to be 7 megabits. So we would click on the Edit button. And then we could see the values that are right here. So if we wanted to replace the 8 megabit value, we would simply go in and replace this right there. And then we would also change, if needed, our style or any of the advanced settings, the labels right here. So if we replace it, let's say to 7 in the query right here, where we have the query, if we were to replace the value of the SLA infringement here, we would also want to make sure that we replace it in the description. So let's go ahead and just replace this with a 7. It's not obviously precise because this is in bytes rather than megabytes. And we'll also change it 7 megabits right there. And then once we're done, we're going to click on Done Editing. And what you'll notice is our description has changed. And also our query has changed, but we don't have any SLA infringements at the moment. And we can do the same thing for latency. We can do the same thing for our other bandwidth measurement graphs. We could also go to another tab. For example, if we go to Session Hosts tab, and we want to look at SLA on our CPU utilization. So let's scroll down to CPU utilization and find our CPU. Okay, so here we go. So for example, we have an SLA that's defined of CPU exceeding 90% over 3 minutes. We can go ahead and change this, and let's say instead of 90%, we want to look at CPU exceeding 75%. So we'll change it in the query, and then we'll go under advanced settings and make the change to 75, just so the label is correct. We're going to click Done Editing. And then once we're done making all of these changes, we are going to click on Done Editing right here. Then we're going to click on the Save button, which is going to save it back to my first hostful dashboard. And then finally, once we're ready to publish it and display it in the Nerdio Manager, we're going to click this Share button right there. It's going to tell us we need to move it into shared reports, which we're going to click OK to. And once that happens, it's going to generate a link. We're going to take this link, flip back over to the Nerdio Manager for WBD, click Add, call this my first hostful dashboard, and paste the URL right there and click OK. And what we'll see is we now have a new link that has appeared under monitoring, and this is going to appear for every Nerdio Manager for WBD user. And then as you click on this new workbook, it is going to open up. It's going to be my first hostful dashboard. There it is. And it's going to have the configuration that we've specified for the output bandwidth SLA, as well as for the session host CPU utilization being 75%. So this is just one of the ways that you can customize your workbooks. You can edit, you can open the template, select your host pool, select your time range, make changes to any of the labels, add additional queries, or change of any of the predefined ones, then save it and share it, copy the link, and then from the settings menu under Sepago Azure Monitor in the Nerdio Manager, you can go ahead and add your newly created dashboard. See you next time.